This is pretty sure this is an assembly of really nerdy GTM people, which is awesome. Because we all dialed in to like look at data and like visualization and Bowtie stuff, which is great. We're gonna make the data speak to us. We're only a minute over. I think we should give people time to keep joining before we kick off. But we've got in the beginning, we were all Europe and Canada. Any other continents represented besides North America and Europe so far? That might be it. Hey, Nick, good to see you.
Likewise, good to see you, Dave. How are you?
Howdy, I'm just looking across, and Chuck, good to see you. People that I know, Daniel, Sandeep.
Hey, Dave, how are you?
Howdy. Sandeep toned down. You must have toned down your profile picture because you're smiling big, but in reality, you smile really big. Probably didn't want to scare us with with the actual.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to scare other people. Yes.
Amazing. Cool. Yeah, we are all assembling now. So this is an assembly of go-to-market aficionados with a special proclivity towards data, which is kind of like our people. Yeah, we're expecting probably 30 plus, right, Ian? So we probably give it a few more minutes.
Yeah, we're up to 42, so.
Oh, we're already above that. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you. Feel free to turn your camera on. We're going to, let me introduce who we've got on the call today. I'm here hosting with Andrew Perry, and we have set up a really interesting show for you. Andrew, why don't you let us know in this showcase what we can expect to see?
Yeah, so we'll be seeing two scenarios that we believe are very typical for what most of you are facing, maybe not on a day-to-day basis, but very often in your roles, and to see through some of our product partners the amazing work that they're doing to integrate a lot of the revenue architecture formats, frameworks, particularly around the data model. How to more easily get that into a visible way for you to dive in deep and identify those issues or those successes that you're having all along the bow tie. So it's really exciting. We're very happy to have both Clayton and Guillaume, each from Una Software and from Vasco, who are great partners of ours who've been working hard to develop and build the bow tie and other elements of our frameworks into their systems. To help each of you accomplish the goals and jobs that you're doing. So we're excited to have them here. Excited to have them walk through these.
Amazing. So you may not, let me just catch you up a little bit on kind of the winning by design strategy here and how and why we care so much. You know, Andrew said the word amazing partners. It really is amazing. And I really enjoyed working with each of these companies. But winning by design, as you know, has a set of frameworks, and one of those is the Bowtie data model. And we have and we know that these frameworks are powerful, and we also know that they only are useful if they can get into production in a company. And so bridging from kind of the conceptual framework all the way into your systems and your sources of data is a last mile problem that we went out recruiting partners to help us with. And both Una and Vasco stepped up to the challenge. And what you're going to see is the result of our active partnership to get the Bowtie data model connected right into data sources so that you can solve real problems. We do that on we have a structured partnership program. If any of you are interested in that partner program, I would love to talk to you about it. but right now it's on to the use case and how it's solved. So I think we're at 54 people. That's probably what we're going to get. So Andrew, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, happy to. So excited. Our first scenario that we're going to walk through today, a day in the life scenario, is we're imagining Karthik and Holly of Inticore. They are part of a $20 million SaaS company, but they're hitting a revenue plateau. And their frustration is that they've had a lot of great lead generation over the past couple of quarters. Very strong there, but they're still seeing that revenue growth stalling out. But they have this goal on top of these troubles to really scale up to 30 million over the next 18 months. So Karthik has tasked Holly with identifying the root cause of this issue, of the plateau issue. And they've recently integrated the Bowtie data model into their existing process, into their existing data system, using Winning by Design partner. And that partner is Una in this case. And we're going to hear from Clayton, who's the co-founder, CEO, and he'll take us through basically how's Holly going to succeed here. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and Clayton, you can jump in.
Sounds good. Thanks, Andrew. All right. Hopefully everybody can see this.
We got it.
Got it. Amazing. Thanks for having us, myself and Guillaume. I think, so how do we help Holly? So first of all, we have to understand, how do we actually build, the infrastructure for her to go in and do the analysis and determine what are the actions she needs to take to help the company grow to 30 million. And so the very first step, at least from our revenue architecture design principle, is like, we need to connect the different systems of go-to-market from, marketing, sales, CS, and also bring in the finance data. So we need a way to bring all this important information together. And then we need to build a really robust revenue model, one that actually can show different segmentation. We can look at, using revenue architecture language, we can look at each one of your different go-to-market motions independently. Most of them will be on different curves in terms of maturity, and they also have different ways of operating. And so, over at Una, we're finance geeks. We've built a couple different FP&A solutions before. So, we're all about building models. And so the idea is, let's ingest all of this information, let's transform it, let's map it to the Winning by Design architecture framework, but let's also give you a view below that. So basically what we do is we take all of your different pipelines across acquisition, onboarding, retention, and expansion, and we bring it all together. And then we do the calculation. So you can look at, all the different core components, so you can understand your throughput, velocity, all the core RevOps metrics that you need, and then of course the costs associated with those different motions. So that's when we get to step 3. How do we give you a high fidelity view in terms of the Bowtie? One that's dynamic, one that shows different versions of the data, trend and cohort. How can we allow the application to use our anomaly detection where things are out of sync relative to benchmarks or KPIs that you've set? Then of course the ongoing concern of data hygiene. Obviously, everybody's data is in a different state. We want to give you up front a very clear view of where that stands, help you get a really robust baseline on import of your first view, and then from there enforce that through data hygiene through process. And then of course, once we actually understand how our different go-to-market motions are performing, how do we use that to understand what are the most optimal actions? And then how do we move that towards good scenario modeling, revenue planning, and financial metrics? So today we're going to focus on kind of the Rev IQ piece to help Holly, and then we'll get into, based on what she's seeing, what different scenarios can she apply, and what are those impacts using the growth formula? So if we talk about Intercore, so this is what I'm going to set up here, is just a bi-weekly revenue inspection meeting with your go-to-market team. A review of the integrated go-to-market dashboard, i.e. the data model, Bowtie, diagnose friction points, and then identify next best actions. Cool. All right. Can everybody see the app?
Yes.
I'm just gonna actually, I'm gonna re-log in. I think it logged me out.
Okay. Clayton, do you mind pulling up that last slide? I know this is probably just for me, but it was up there pretty quick and I didn't process. I think that's what you were previewing what we're gonna see, right?
The
The weekly meeting, the one
Which kind of
discussing the
slide?
weekly meeting.
yes. Sorry, I went too fast then. Okay. This one? Is that the one you're looking for?
So this is what we're going to do right now, right? We're
This
in
is
our
nice.
bi-weekly meeting. We're going to
Yeah.
review the integrated dashboard, diagnose friction points, and identify next best actions.
That's right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're
I should have
welcome.
read it more quickly before I was distracted.
No worries. Okay. So can everybody see what looks like a dashboard?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
Very cool. Okay, so first thing when you log into Una, you get this kind of performance dashboard. What it really is to help someone like Holly really understand, give them a pivot table basically of ARR. So first thing I just want to highlight here is like, let's get to know our different go-to-market motions that we have. So if we look at kind of 2024 and how we're progressing in our forecast, we can kind of see where acquisition is, expansion, and churn. It's not a lot of expansion, some churn, but not too drastic. But you can see we're kind of flat in the back half of the year. But it's never good to look at this as a consolidated view. So the goal is to let's get down to our different go-to-market motions and understand how they're performing. So what I would do is, if I was using this application, is let's understand first the maturity of our different go-to-market motions. So enterprises, you can see, it's got to be very new, probably something we rolled out in 2023, and we're just starting to get some traction. So obviously not where we want to focus our time, but mid-market we can see is more consistent, more predictable, and same with SMB. Now the difference is when we look at SMB, we can see in the back half of the year, it's kind of declining. It's kind of this declining trend in terms of acquisition. And if we were to look at mid-market, we're kind of seeing this a little bit of flat, but uptake in the back half of the year. So I think where I'd start is I want to explore SMB a little bit further. And within the application, like I said, if this is if you're thinking about this as a pivot table, we can then go and investigate, each go-to-market motion by source, by owner, by region. If I want to drill in, look at Canada as an example, and drill further in by industry. Like you can get to really finite points of view, but we're going to keep it high level today. So what I would do first is go into the next step, which is the data model. And I filtered for just SMB because that's what we're going to view today. But what you're seeing on the screen today is the Winning by Design Bowtie framework level. So what we've done is we've taken your acquisition, onboarding, retention, expansion pipeline, and we've mapped them to these higher level stages. And the reason we've done that is so that we can compare them to benchmarks based on this time of year across, a whole different slew of different, industry benchmarks for different SaaS companies based on their ACV and growth, et cetera. So what we're looking at here is you have the selection. You can look at any period, any perspective across any metric or KPIs. So if you want to look at also ARR or MRR, however you look at your business, you can do that as well. We're measuring the 4 horsemen is what we call. So for Holly, we can look at volume, ARR, conversions, and average time and stage. These are what we call the 4 horsemen of RevOps. Each one of these chevrons represents a cohort, and and it's telling us a story. So this is where I would start. This is kind of like your $1 million slide in a go-to-market meeting. Like, where are the friction points in our 4th system of GTM? So when I look at this, the very first thing obviously that pops out to me is, wow, our onboarding retention is not great, right? Whereas if we look up the funnel, our acquisition seems to be performing much better than benchmark. So if I click into, let's say, very top of the funnel, we're converting much higher, almost 4 times higher, 3 times higher than benchmark based on our ACV, and similar through education. Now, what we're noticing is a little bit underperformance and prioritize. So this is where we hand off to, an SDR. This is where we're kind of qualifying whether this is a real opportunity. So likely some connection between the quality of opportunity and who we're targeting relative to what we're actually qualifying. But this is a ridiculous level of conversion and amplified for the use case. The idea here is we're way overperforming on, in terms of once the sales reps get involved, we're basically converting almost 100% of what's coming in as a qualified opportunity. So that on its own might be a contributor to what's happening in onboarding and retention. So that's where we kind of start. Obviously, you can use this view, this winning by design framework view, and you can segment it any way you want, by owner. So you can go down to the sales rep level. You can look at this by source of revenue, inbound, outbound, partner, whatever you want, industry, region. So whatever the segmentation of your data is, you'll be able to slice and dice or create different views of your bow tie across whatever intersection of your business you want to look at. But what I would be really keen on if I'm Holly is to go deeper on what's happening here, first of all, and how it might be connected to the acquisition part of our go-to-market system. So I'll go down one level deeper, which is the diagnostic level. So the diagnostic level in Una represents basically an ad hoc analysis screen of your data model. So this is your force system of go-to-market all connected here. And you can look at it on cohort, on trend. And the idea here is to go and try to figure out exactly what might be happening, how it might be interrelated with other parts of go-to-market systems. So the thing that I want to explore a little bit further is go a level down below the winning by design framework. So now we're going to onboarding, but we're going to drill into what are the steps in onboarding. So we have a kickoff step and a setup step. So I'm actually going to go into the kickoff step. And what I want to do is actually compare that to how it performed to the prior year. So the first thing I'm going to look at is, the volume. So I can see there's been a 135% increase in volume over last year in the kickoff stage. So this is a pretty significant thing to look at. If you were looking at this in isolation as a CS team or an onboarding team, your immediate reaction would be, well, sales is killing it. They're bringing over a whole bunch of new logos. We have the same set of capacity. The next best action might be to recommend, let's go and get more people. Let's hire more people to handle the volume that's coming in. And what are projections for future volume? But if you can connect it to the acquisition side, you might start to realize that might not be the right action. So if we drill into our proposal stage, this is the exiting stage out of acquisition going into commit. A couple things that I'm seeing obviously conversion rates sky high, but what I'm also seeing, I want to go a little bit deeper in, is the progressed deal size. Like my progressed deal size through my last step of acquisition into commit is 40% lower. Yep.
Take like 20 seconds, 30 seconds to wrap. We need to move for the time to get through. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yep.
This is great. This is great.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm seeing average progressed deal size 40% lower. That's not great. So the next thing that I'm going to want to do is look at velocity. So I'm going to compare conversion rates with velocity. So I'll go into my time scaling and I'll just look at left-hand side of the bow tie. So I'll get out of retention and onboarding. And you can see I'm moving things this year through the funnel at a much rapid pace relative to last year. So the combination of high conversion rates and very fast movement through in terms of velocity is a likely cause for what's happening. So when I think about what do I need to do? Well, then I go into my scenario planning. So then I look at my left-hand and right-hand side and I go, okay, these are my existing volume and conversion rates and discount rates and post-sales rates in terms of conversion. What if I adjusted those things? What if I take a tactical approach to improving qualification, win rates, reducing discounts, getting better quality revenue through the door, putting it through the growth model in these different scenarios? What is the output? So those micro tactical actions, I might see an 18% increase in ARR in the first year, which equates to 135K just in this particular segment, which over time is like $1 million in ARR. So I may say, let's push that to a specific plan. Let's create all the different actions that we want to take, what CRs and KPIs they're actually going to influence. And if I actually want to go deeper and manipulate that at a deeper level and record, like, here are some of the investments we're going to make in terms of improving our ICP, targeting, improving sales training, or working through a different CS motion. This is where I can go even deeper and adjust some of those things that will lead to plans. So the idea is you have this nice closed loop system that you can work within.
Awesome. This is great, Clayton. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Clayton, like if I'm Kartik and you're Holly and you just, I asked you that question and you showed me the power of that solution, my mind would be like blown. I would be like, okay, so Holly, let's go to town on this thing. I want to use this to plan out my next year. I could tell that you've got a handle on the details. I had no idea that we could make our data sing like that because, of course, I'm probably only familiar with what's available out of Salesforce. And so I think we're going to be meeting some more, Holly, because I know that I can diagnose and plan with this tool. Thank you.
Yeah, the one thing I would add though is there's tactical execution points along the customer journey that you can do. But if I was looking at this strategically, at that SMB level, I might suggest maybe we have the wrong operating model for that. I might suggest like, let's investigate a PLG motion. All that should be maybe pipeline, and the sales assisted PLG motion might turn into a really good opportunity for us, where it might seem negative in the way that we're looking at it right now. So serves both purposes. Yep.
Amazing. All right.
Great. All right, we'll jump over to our next day in the life. Let me just quickly share my screen, just talk through this very briefly. So in this one, a little bit similar. We have Visitel, and they're under pressure really from their board. Amira is their CRO, to get a better, accurate view of their sales funnel. They've got a lot of data. It's kind of all over the map, and they seem to, marketing and sales, et cetera, they kind of talk to each other, but sometimes it's really hard to get on the same page with the holes in how they're combining the data. So she's given Clint the assignment to really dig in deeper into this as a project, so they can actually find the bottlenecks and any areas that they can to really pinpoint the optimization of their process, to visualize it in a way that she can present to the board, present to really across all functions of the company in an easy way. To help them all be on the same page from a discussion standpoint, all in the effort, hopefully, to grow just like our past company. They want to go from 10 million, they want to grow 10 million in the next year. So with that, I'm going to hand it to Guillaume from Vasco, who will walk us through Clint's perspective.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here with the community. We've been building that product to support that community. So it's great to meet you all and show what we have. So if we support the scenario that we've been speaking about, the first thing the person in RevOps wants to do is to start breaking the silos that exist between marketing, sales, and customer success. Why? Because they're all reporting on different data sets. And as a consequence, there is not a single source of truth that represents the reality of what's happening between lead to cash. So Clint here in that scenario turns into the winning by design framework and decides to implement the Bowtie. The first steps you would need to do in order to make that a reality is to connect your data sources, CRMs, or other sources, and then start mapping those metrics progressively through the Bowtie. With Vasco, what you'd be able to do is you connect your CRM and you have a no-code mapping where you can really implement the definition of those lifecycle stages. Here, an SAL is a deal object, which have the different conditions. You can add those conditions defined within your CRM, and you can build that automatically. We have a ton of metrics that are prepackaged for revenue architecture and standardized so that she doesn't have to abstract the complexity of actually turning this data into actionable insights. The second piece is you want to make this real. You want to map this to the reality of the organization. She has two go-to-market motion. She wants to split the two in order to get the root cause of what's happening between those two very different realities, SMBs and mid-market. So she's going to start by actually mapping her organization on the customer journey. Here we have a very simple one, no code mapping, where you have marketing distributing MQLs to inbound SDR, who is in charge of distributing pipeline, SAL to account executives. You also have partnership, outbound SDR in charge of various channels. but she can really, really tailor it to the reality of her business. Here, for instance, marketing is actually in charge of SQL, and you can add a PLG motion that is actually connected directly to implementation, and so on and so on. Vasco will abstract that complexity, read the data from the CRM, and prepackage it with your organization and exactly how you go to market. So now you're thinking, okay, amazing. I have this connection, I have the data, I have the channels, I have everything I need. The CRM must be awesome, so I'm sure everything's going to go well. And you have the first realization is actually the data you're reading from the CRM is really not at all what you would be expecting. So you get into radar and you start noticing some gaps that exist between what you're expecting to get from your CRM and actually the reality. Then channel that is not mapped, an account executive that has not tagged a deal, a dimension that is not there, and so on and so on. So with data integrity module, with Vasco, actually the head of RevOps can use that tool as a forcing function to implement that unified data set across the organization and show progress as they go along the way. This is a tool that is especially appreciated for partners out there who want to demonstrate the ROI of the work they do building that data hygiene into their practices. So here you have all the gaps. You see that data integrity scores that go to 87. It's exciting. You see all the various breakage. You even have a wall of shame where you can tag the people who are creating those errors. And you can go one step deeper and click, view, see all the errors, explain in plain English in there. And then you have a quick link to the CRM so you can have a junior RevOps actually build and enforce that data integrity through the organization. Because we're very nice, we also have a ton of enrichment rules in order to take into consideration the 90% of mistakes that we see. Skip stages, missing channels, missing go-to-market motions, different channels and different objects, duplication of leads from the same companies and accounts and so on. You have all there. So now we have that trusted data set. It's mapped across the Bowtie. It works, you can justify it. You can now go to the CRO and Clint can really start driving what the diagnostic is going to be. We're going to be focusing on SMB here. So this is a very simple view. We have others, but here what you can see is awareness, we're good. Education, we're good. But we're starting to see down funnel thing trickle down into something we're not expecting. When you double click, you see volumes were nice, but conversion rates were actually not where they expected to be. We know that it's sometimes hard to articulate that story. So in plain English, we have this with an AI model that actually gives you the insights that you need if you need to copy paste, but we don't refuse complexity in that group. So we're going to look at the top action items. We realize that actually the biggest estimated impact is low lead to MQL. We put a dollar value on it so that you can really prioritize the ones that are going to be useful. You see that this is what's costing 591K of AR. Then you can really drill down, look at the stage. You have the monitor driver, the trends, and you can double click on what's happening. Here we're seeing again, the problem is conversion. And because it's a conversion, then there is a set of tools like better qualification, better scoring formula, using SPICE that can really, really help the company go better. So everything is inspectable and you can really get those drivers and compare them to the benchmark and prioritize those action items with the estimated impact. You also want to bring accountability at the function level. We have the stage diagnostic, but you actually want to understand which functions have been responsible for not delivering. So you see the snapshot of the Bowtie by function. And here we're seeing marketing. Okay, that was great, but we had a problem in account executive. Partnership delivered well. The problem is obviously outbound SDR. So let's peel the onion a little bit more here. Let's open up that box. In that box, we realize that actually at the channel level, existing network was okay, but we didn't work enough ICP list and community. And the reality is that actually we didn't deliver enough leads. Conversion rates were good. But if you go one step deeper, you realize that actually the main problem was coverage. We didn't have enough people to work those leads. So it's an HR problem. You turn into the bottom up and you realize, well, yes, we had those people coming in, but the new recruits that are coming after, and the sum of the target of those people, well, they yield to a coverage that is below 50%. So it's normal we didn't work those leads enough. We don't have a problem of quality here. We have a problem for this very specific use case of recruiting and recruiting faster. So we need to rebalance resources until those coverage are set up. Finally, what you can do is starting to really enforce that new data-driven culture within your organization and start building weekly business reviews, monthly business reviews. And for this, you can use Vasco BI, where you can have a mini looker that is prepackaged and plugged to the standardized metrics, pre-standardized for revenue architecture. And you can build custom reports to run your WBR using targets, activities, employees. It reads everything, orchestrated, and then you can build this weekly cadence so that you build a data-driven culture within your organization. This is a pure, customizable dashboards that you can use like if you had a BI tool, but plugged for revenue architecture. We have more, but I'm going to stop here to be conscious of time. It's a journey we've been on with the Winning by Design team. We're very excited about this partnership. I know there are a few people in there also that are part of the community. Fabrice, for example, that is a partner as well of Vasco, and that are really here to spread the word and helping customers actually implement the best practices of revenue architecture. So we're very happy actually to also on that call finally announce our partnership program. We've been doing it for a little while. And what we have is for the people who are part of the fractional RevOps community, fractional CRO, GTM advisor, and so on, we have a partnership program where they can use Vasco to gain leverage, have that RevOps in a box kind of tool that they can use so that when they implement revenue architecture, they can have a lasting impact, and also really, really drive into the results and don't spend a ton of time compiling those spreadsheets together in order to get that advice view. So for those interested, please don't hesitate to subscribe and to become a partner. Other than that, very excited to be part of the community, and hopefully with that group here together, we can really transform a little bit this ecosystem so that growth becomes more efficient and more structured.
Amazing. It is so refreshing to have CEO founders who are demoing right from the solution. It is the way it should be. It is not always the way it is. But we've got 2 CEO founders on the phone or on the line right now, and we're going to keep them for another 10 minutes or so, so that we can ask directly kind of from the source. Guillaume, one of the things I saw in the solution that I didn't know was there that I really liked was that kind of the diagnosis and then the recommended action. That gives me like a thread to go pull on. So just highlighting stuff that you liked or asking follow-up questions about either of those solutions. We're going to keep Guillaume and Clayton on for 10 minutes of Q&A. I'll start by reading a couple of questions that showed up, Clayton, during your presentation. This is probably more of an implementation question from Nick, and Nick, feel free to pitch in here, but he writes, do you find that various clients have different definitions of moving from stage to stage, i.e. what's the criteria for moving from awareness to education?
Yeah, like just to chime in a little bit. So on the Vasco demo, it was very clear. It was like MQL or lead to MQL was that stage to stage sort of definition. And I'm curious if different clients have, like, some of them are traffic on the website, some of them are leads, and how you have to sit down and define that. And if there's any best practices for that, even from Winning by Design.
And are you talking specifically about what we would call CR1, like awareness to education? Yeah. Okay. You just went for the trickiest one. You just wanted to like.
Well, that's the one where I see that it's always confusing. It's like different people think about it in different ways, and I'm like, well, if everybody's looking at it different, it makes it hard to benchmark across other clients. I was just kind of curious where folks were at.
I mean, that one and the onboarding one are the 2 trickiest conversion rates. Guillaume or Clayton, do you want to?
If I were to just jump in for one thing, they have different names, but they all have the notion of a customer journey. Or the one that don't have them, it's just they don't realize it. And then there's this notion of metric system, moving leads to stages and to the next part of the factory. And maybe there are different names, but they still have these notions of you have input, output, conversion, and time. And then you can change the names to reflect what the business prefers in terms of acronym. But in reality, you realize that they all anchor into kind of that. Then the question is, but I have a PLG motion and it's a bit different than my SMB motion, which is a bit different than my enterprise motion. And then what we tell them is, it's okay. You can change the name if you want, but you still need to have anchors into those conversion rates and those stages, because otherwise you would never be able to compare which motion works better and how to allocate resources. It's normal for your SMB motions to have higher velocity and higher conversion rates, but higher churn, but in your enterprise motion to have longer time in stages. But if you don't have that common model, and if you try to build different data points across those different motions, you would never be able to get and surface those insights that you need to compare those motions and know where to accelerate and decelerate. And for me, most of the time that has made kind of the queue, and it was enough to convince them that actually you don't need to go crazy and start building very, very customized thing for each and every part of the organization.
So I think since I've spoken with you, Nick, I think you would not disagree with anything he just said.
Yeah.
And also, like, it's tricky, like awareness, like how do you measure awareness? It doesn't always happen in your system. And then so how do you go from awareness to education? So we typically, we know it's not perfect, but we typically start with website visits because it's something I can see. Did somebody become aware of it somewhere else? Yeah, probably. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Am I going to get duplicates? Yes. But it's something I can see and I can measure from one period to the next period. So that's our shorthand. Clayton, do you guys handle it a different way?
Yeah, just building off what Guillaume said, I think if we look at it from an FP&A lens, this is the fun thing about revenue. It's like the fluid part of the operation. FP&A is like, oh, we have a structured GL, we have structured reports, P&L, balance sheet, cash flow. Like, it's all very structured. This is very unstructured, and everybody seems to do it differently, which is why we love the Winning by Design framework. So you can map at least to some level of degree of, so that you can compare it across the different stages of the customer journey. So that's why we have a mapping process where we go through with our customers to say, okay, what do we believe belongs in each one of these stages, and let's map it up so we can do the benchmarks. But we definitely want to measure down at the moments that matter, that roll up. So we give folks a more detailed view of those moments that matter that are in between each of the chevrons. So you can get down to a deeper level. But the way that the architecture is created for Una is that it's flexible. So if you add more stages or move things around, like, it's not going to impact the way that you report. And so we accommodate for the change. We anticipate that everybody's going to change process. As you invite new executives or new people into roles, are going to want to change how things are done. And process is just this ever-moving thing. So as long as you understand how, if you understand that change is inevitable, then you should have a way to just make sure that you can accommodate for it.
Great, thank you.
All right. Now, there was a question about benchmarks. I think it was about where they showed up in the interface, which is probably more of a specific question than we need to answer right now. But I'm assuming, Clayton, they are in the interface. We just didn't see it, or?
No, yeah, they were in the data model
Okay.
view where you looked at the high-level bow tie with the different colors and the kind of the anomaly detection. Below that, the anomaly detection is based on the benchmarks.
And then, so those benchmarks are crowdsourced. For those, maybe Ian, you could put the URL in the chat. You can benchmark yourself in a point in time on the Winning by Design Bowtie Benchmarks website. But if you want to do it on an ongoing basis, this is a perfect way to do it in one of these platforms. And Clayton showed that to you with the red, yellow, green color coding.
The thing that was also at the top there was you can choose a different scenario as well. So you can actually create your own benchmarks. So when we went into the kind of the growth formula and you kind of picked what the ideal CR rates you would want to, aspire to, that would be in a different scenario. So you could actually, look at your performance relative to, scenario 1, 2, 3, your budget, whatever it is, your forecast. So it's you're not just looking at you versus benchmark, but you can look at it versus all your different scenarios or plans you built.
Very cool. Okay. feel free to pop stuff into the chat, or you can just interrupt, just unmute and weigh in. Same here for Vasco. Guillaume just says on the scenario building benchmark definition. So here's an interesting Vancha Bashista says she's built out the right side of the bow tie into time-based intervals, 14, 30, 60, 90 days, etc., to see where the friction occurs during onboarding, during retention, during expansion. Is that a concept in either of these platforms?
On our side, you can create custom dimensions, custom dates, and then you can map them. We just showed the bow tie and kind of the major anchor points. But if you really want to geek out and get granular within two major sections, then you can. For those who are advanced user, this is obviously something very important. What we realize is that you need kind of a simple model to start with most of the community, and then starting to bring on that complexity as you go after.
Yeah, I love that question because every company is a little bit different in terms of what their activation metrics are. Our last company, this company called PartnerStack, we had an SMB motion that was moving fast, but we understood that to actually activate a partner, you need to do it within a small time period after they closed or they didn't get the value, because most of SMB is experimentation for that particular product. And so what we realized, we moved the needle backwards. We said, if they didn't activate or close a commission within the first 20 days, then they're likely going to churn. And then so that was gate 1, gate 2, gate 3. We had a couple other activation metrics. So the winning by design framework is the high level for comparison against benchmark, but then you can go deeper and just compare what makes sense to you and what you want to track.
Amazing. We have, so that CR6 is first impact, which is kind of like a definition of onboarding success, but it doesn't mean, in its strict sense, it doesn't mean go live. It means impact. Like, so
Yes.
Clayton, what you were saying is like you were in your previous company, you were measuring, am I getting them to impact? And then the expert level of that is, am I getting them to impact in time? Like, which would be kind of what Vashita was asking, like, am I getting them to first impact before they run out of attention span, before they give up on me? That's really important because that will be definitely an indicator of churn. Love that answer. Love, love, love. All right. Anything else for Clayton and Guillaume before we let them go and talk behind their backs? Yeah, Guillaume, time to first value. Yeah, we call it impact. Time to first value is probably the common industry term. Love it. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Clayton and Guillaume. That was, I feel honored and privileged that you would pull back the curtain, spend time as founders and product owners showing us what you got. Andrew, anything else before we let those guys bounce?
No, I put it in the chat there, but yeah, thanks again, both Clayton and Guillaume, for jumping on this. This is great, super helpful.
We're doing important work, and thank you so much for your partnership. I think everyone on this call has got battle scars to show for how hard it is to make this work without a tool like what you've got.
Super quick question. Do you guys have pricings somewhere available publicly, or?
Sorry, we don't. We focused on building the product before starting to optimize for the prices, but you can reach out to us on our website and we'll share prices by email.
Awesome. Awesome. And for you guys, Clayton?
Yeah, we haven't thrown anything up on the website yet, but yeah, same thing. If you want to explore it further, we can determine what your needs are, and we'll tell you what the price is.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
Very cool. Thanks for having us.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. You guys didn't know this, but Guillaume had a team member all queued up to do that demo until an emergency happened, and then he jumped in to the breach. So that was great. So let's chat. What did you like? What would you want to see more? What did you not like? What's your feedback on these solutions? Why don't we take the screen down too? We can see people's faces. All right. We went from like 57 down to 22. So we got the hardcore people left. Any reactions here before we let everybody go? What did you think?
I would start. Sorry, go ahead, Fernando.
It seemed like there was a fair bit of overlap between the two solutions. My gut is like Una was a little bit more intuitive. What's your sense of sort of the overlap between the two and how they'd best be applied?
I think it's close to 100%, but Andrew, you may know the nuances more than I do.
Yeah, I mean, we're from our side, we're looking at the Bowtie model particularly in terms of what they do, and those are very close to overlap. I mean, there's some on the edges, there might be some nuances, but yeah, the overlap is pretty significant. They're both really good at what they're doing. It could be something around, which one's more intuitive to you versus the other. But yeah.
We've
Yeah,
gotten
so
Fernando once in a while and just advising, for this company, this scenario, which one would be more appropriate, but generally they're aiming at the same functionality as you picked up.
Okay, cool.
yeah, my observation was like, of course, both solutions are pretty good, depicting the bow tie data model and the analysis. Una it looked visually better to me. Just the charts or the graphs and the way it was all, it looked a little bit more fluid. But then on the Vasco side, plus point was like it went a little bit more deeper into the analysis and the call to action. So while the data is there, but what do you do next, right? So it also goes one level, one click down and tells you that, okay, here's what you need to do. So it's a balance, right? So what the screen looked a little bit busy, Vasco screen, like lots of stuff, like small fonts, tons of information, but there are the nuggets of information there. Whereas Una was a little bit more pleasing to the eye, and if you're sharing that presentation of the chart to the board, I mean, like, you would basically, if you were to pick, you would pick Una presentation, but then the commentary you will pick from Vasco.
Right. Amazing. Great analysis. Thank you, Sandeep. Ray, you've got a comment.
Yeah, I agree with Sandeep's comment there on the kind of visuals. I think the user friendliness of Una topped out for me, and the analysis part that came with Vasco was much better. But what I didn't really get a sense of from either vendor was the overall proposition, how easy it is to adopt, what sort of support they provide. There was absolutely no information on pricing, which was disappointing, even an indicative range. For particularly as given size company, like if you're in the sort of 5 to 10 million space, then this is what we recommend for you. This is what your kind of budget is. This is the kind of return on investment we could expect you to achieve. So it's from a kind of overall evaluation standpoint, I feel like we're just picking on visuals and a few features here. I definitely would like to see more to be able to make a decision, put it that way.
And that's the hope of today, right? Is to whet the appetite and get, we only had a few minutes with each. So hopefully it sparked some interest, sparked some, movement, and we encourage you to reach out and talk with them, get more detail.
What's everyone's
Thanks,
view
guys.
on the challenge to get the right data structured in a way so that Una or Vasco can then structure it according to the Bowtie, because that data is in a CRM. And if you haven't done that job to have the right piece of data collected with the right sort of definition in a CRM, then it's hard to leverage the right analytics on top. And my ever big problem with the theory of revenue architecture, winning by design, and the operational implementation is how you translate it into a CRM. Una does the job in between, but I'm very curious how they help clients bridge that gap, or how you guys have done it with your past experience at winning by design.
a great question. It is, yeah, we do it with blood, sweat, and tears. It is not, I mean, clearly you've been in the same situation. It is not easy. We actually have another partner who is launching a company as we speak to solve that problem, to create definitions in CRM and do the mapping into custom objects that would allow however you track data to map to this before it even gets over to Una or to Vasco. That solution doesn't exist yet, but we have at least one partner trying to tackle it.
Thanks. That's very, very useful. And it also feels, and I'd love to have the rest of the community feedback here. It also feels that with the overall volume of experience and data that, you know, Winning by Design has leveraged to validate the whole revenue architecture, there should be a relative consensus around the key labels, the key terms, the key definitions that 80% of startup that moves that favor one type of go-to-market motion or other need to capture to align with revenue architecture. So what I'm trying to say that it feels like Una or Vasco should already have some implementation packages that it's almost out of the box, 80%, 60% streamlined, and almost like the majority of the people that fits into a particular PFG or enterprise go-to-market recognize their summary.
I agree with you. So I spent some time with Guillaume recently. He did not get into this in his demo, but this is the first time I had actually seen it in the demo. He said he got feedback from his board that people need to be able to, within an hour, 1 hour, be able to visualize data after they connect their data source. So you saw in there, he's got like a score on how good the data is. And then he's got like a fill-in, like almost like a data repair cheat to just get something into the Bowtie. But then it gives it a bad data health score. So you have to go in and figure out what's wrong and what's not wrong. But it gives you an estimate of what's going on based on like an AI fill-in of missing data or repair of nonsensical data. First time I had ever seen it, David. So I don't actually know the details behind it, but it does seem like an interesting way to jumpstart you. I think your suggested solve is even more fundamental, and we got to get there too.
Thanks.
Cool, man. All right. Has anyone on the call used either of these solutions? Not yet. Okay. We'll get some real user feedback.
Actually, sorry, I have, but my role is a little different because I'm a HubSpot consultant, and I've partnered with Vasco on a couple of clients.
Okay.
And so I've worked on it, but earlier versions, like this version of the demo is pretty new to me as well.
Okay.
But I've worked on a couple of them. Yeah.
Well, Fabrice, I'd love to know like what was the experience, just because I think the dashboards, everything looks great, but it's that how do you port the data, and how seamless was that? Because it just feels like it could be a nightmare to get that information, and then you got to backdate the data, all kinds of stuff.
So yeah, and on top of it, one of the clients I worked on was like had a very old HubSpot instance, so there was like, you know, almost 1 million contacts in there, a lot of duplicates, that was my initial concern as well. But when I mapped it, yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot, like he showed on the radar or whatever he calls it, the data integrity score, you know, it was pretty low. We were at like 30 or 40% data integrity. And that was, like I said, he didn't have that functionality to estimate at the time. So the actual plugging was pretty different. Plugging in, like mapping, this is like what an SQL is, this is what a lead is. Like that was pretty easy. The more time consuming part was cleaning the data, for sure, as you mentioned. Like I said, now it seems like you don't have to do that up front anymore, but at the time you had to. So that was long, but again, I'm a HubSpot consultant, right? So for me, it was satisfying in knowing that we're actually going in and cleaning up some processes and putting in required properties and cleaning up workflows to help you know, so now the quality score is at 80 plus for 90% or something like that because of all the work we had to do. So yeah, summarize, it was tedious at the time. Now it seems like there's a gap, way to bridge the gap in the meantime. But at the same time, data integrity is critical. So I think it is worth spending time working on that as well.
Thanks.
So we've got QR codes on the screen now. I think they go to Winning by Design specific landing pages. They might go to some other site on Una and Vasco's site that they designated for us, but you should be able to learn more. Both of these vendors are rapidly innovating, as you can tell from Fabrice's comment. Like, he hadn't even seen the latest, even though he's been hands-on, and I hadn't seen the latest. So send us feedback. We'd love to get it to them, or reach out directly to them and give them feedback. They want to hear feedback, and the more hands-on we get, the more we can help them improve their solutions. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll give you 3 minutes back for, you know, like hygiene and bathroom break before your next call. Be amazing.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So thanks for hosting.